Hi, my name is Jacob Hollinger, and this is my portfolio presentation for advanced communication skills. Now, when I was thinking about what topic I wanted to choose, I kind of had to ask myself, do I want to pick something that I want to talk about, or do I want to pick something that's a little bit safer? And I decided to go with what I wanted to talk about, and that is the Black Lives Matter movement. That has once again swept across our nation following the death of George Floyd, right? We saw peaceful protests at first, but riots, killings, and looting and unrest have kind of gripped our nation ever since that began, you know. So I've selected 3 rhetorical pieces that I believe address this topic in a manner that are compatible with what I believe about the issue, and they provide enough depth and information for me to have explored over the course of this past semester, right? These pieces include, first off, a segment from the Tucker Carlson show from Fox News. It's from YouTube. It's from the segment. It's not the whole show because that would have been very long, but it is about a 7-minute clip, which they have entitled "America is Witnessing a Brazen Power Grab." The second is from Ben Shapiro, posted and published in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, and that is entitled "Not All Black Lives Matter to the Black Lives Matter Movement," and an article by Diane Dimond entitled "The Hypocrisy of the Black Lives Matter Movement." So, I would say, first off, the Tucker Carlson segment, I would say it covers 3 of the different P's, right? 3 of the P's of the main rhetorical purposes. And this first one is public, right? We can't solve this issue by ourselves, individually, which makes it a public issue. Second is purposive, mainly in that it's designed to inform, but it also is to influence thought and to promote action. And lastly, I would say it's propositional in that it maintains ideas that they're coherently formed and they are intelligent in order to make claims throughout the segment, right? So the Ben Shapiro one, I would say it includes the same 3 from before: public, purposive, and propositional. But I would say this one adds problem solving, right? Because in pointing out the problem, which is the hypocrisy of the Black Lives Matter movement and organization, they also provide the solution in that let's stop ignoring these things, which in this case was Terry Crews had pointed out that there was no outrage from the BLM movement over the 9 children that had died in Chicago as a result of black-on-black crime and violence. Yet they were still talking about George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, a lot of those high-profile names. But you would argue that if all Black Lives Matter, then why aren't we talking about these 9 children as well? And that's kind of what that article is about. So in pointing out the problem, they provide the solution, like I said before. Let's stop ignoring it. Let's address the issue. But not a lot of people want to talk about black-on-black violence. So the last piece from Diane Dimond, I would say it combines the 4 that we've already talked about, and I think it covers a 5th one as well, in that it is powerful. And I believe it is powerful because it includes a statistical analysis of crime in our cities prior to defunding as opposed to post-defunding. And I think it paints a powerful scene of just how flawed the quote-unquote defund the police movement is that the BLM movement is propagating, right? And so I chose these 3 pieces and I wrote about them in a very specific order because of how they cascade upon each other to build a fantastic argument. Separately, I believe they have some issues. They have some blind spots. Tucker Carlson, it lacks depth in that there aren't specific things he points to, right? He kind of points to some vague different things throughout his argument, which are completely valid, but it lacks, like, a quote-unquote the knockout punch, right? Ben Shapiro's, I think, is very good. It includes more of the smaller details that make up an argument, but it lacks kind of, again, the knockout punch. And then lastly, I would say that Diane Dimons gives that knockout punch, in that she has statistical evidence and data that do not support the defund the police and the Black Lives Matter organization, right? And so how do they cascade upon another to build a fantastic argument if they're all flawed, right? I would say that Diane Dimons is the least flawed, but I'll start on Tucker Carlson, right? Because Tucker Carlson confronts the political agenda of the left using the Black Lives Matter organization to further, like I said, their political agenda. Obviously, with the presidential election we just had and with the Senate elections we had at the same time, it was clearly virtue signaling and pandering on their part to establish and win more votes. And as we saw, it did not work. A record number of the Black community voted for Trump, and a record number of the Latino community also voted for Trump in this last election. So, obviously, it didn't work. Secondly, the Ben Shapiro article exposes how the movement places more value on the death of one Black individual over another. As I discussed before, the idea that George Floyd's murder somehow warrants more attention than the 9 children who lost their lives in Chicago due to Black-on-Black violence, right? If all Black lives matter, then why aren't we addressing 9 lives versus the 1, right? 1 criminal, by the way, versus 9 innocent children, right? There's a disparity here, and that we really need to address. And lastly, I would say Diane Dimons gives quantifiable evidence, like I said, on how the Black Lives Movement may actually lead to more Black deaths, right? So in total, they cover 5 of the 7 Ps, right? And they work harmoniously together, you know? And something I liked about these articles is instead of just bashing the movement and calling it quits, they offer valid ways in which the movement can rectify their hypocrisy and validify their arguments, which is something that they desperately need to do. One thing that I think these articles, right, so they're all they have some weaknesses in terms of they're a little short-sighted. I would say Tucker's is more short-sighted than the rest. Ben Shapiro's is kind of the middle. I'd say Diane's is the most complete. But I would say they all are strong in authoritativeness, right? Each author is very prominent in their field. Tucker Carlson is a very prominent journalist. Ben Shapiro went to Harvard. He may be a little controversial to people, but that's because he talks about things people don't want to hear about, right? And Diane Dimons, also another high-profile journalist. She most famously reported on the child molestation scandal that Michael Jackson was involved with. That was kind of her biggest thing. And so I do think that together, and which is why I included them all together, they do a fantastic job of building an argument. And they weren't meant to be together, but I believe they do a fantastic job of building a cohesive argument and background of what I was trying to portray in this portfolio. Thank you.